Hey everybody, I'm Amanda with DevExpress and welcome to today's webinar, DevExpress Winforms Controls, Creating an Outlook-Inspired UI, presented by Analytics Program Manager Seth Juarez and DevExpress CTO Julian Bucknell. In this webinar, you'll learn how to create elegant Office-inspired user experiences with DevExpress Winforms Controls. Seth will walk you through the UI decisions and architecture of our newest Outlook-inspired demos and how you can replicate the same UX in your next Winforms project. I will now hand things over to Seth and Julian.
Well, hello everybody. I'm really excited to be talking about client dev. I love Winforms. Everyone else loves it too. People think that it's gone the way of the dodo, but I like it. You like it, so we're going to talk about it today, if that's okay. If you have ever gone to our demo center, I don't know if you've done this, but if you go to demo center, I'm going off script here, so be careful. We have a number of demos here that you can totally look at, and I don't know if you look at them ever. This is the one I'm going to be showing you today, this one. And so I'll show you how to build it and add on it. But there are tons of other things. If there is something that you would like us to make or do or some kind of use case, just let me know. Send me an email. My email is sethj@devexpress.com. You can always get a hold of me that way, or you can Twitter at me at Seth Juarez. The other thing that I wanted to say before I get started is that I have all the notes here for how to do what I'm going to do. Okay, so you can totally go home and do this, kind of. I'll explain a little bit more about the kind of here in a second. In the end, you can do what I'm showing you, but it requires a little bit of doing, and I'll show you how to do that today. So here's all the code, the end code that I'm going to do, so you'll be able to see that. If you go to github.com/Seth Juarez, and then DevAV, you'll see the stuff that I did, including this PowerPoint. This is one of the presentations I did at our DevExpress Roadshow. If you were unable to attend, you will get some of that here today. And again, if you have any questions, please put them into the question box. I love answering questions while we go and during. Someone just said someone uses web forms for mobile. That's quite interesting. I'd love to see that. All right, so let's get started. The first thing I want to do is I want to actually look at DevAV. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build it. Usually what happens is you just see it in the demo center, but I actually want to show you how to pull it out and build it. So I have here the demos. They're in this really easy to find path. I mean, this is right next to all your important documents, of course. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new DevAV folder, and I am just going to get this Outlook-inspired application and move it over, because that's the Winforms one, and I'm going to copy it. So there's all the code. Just because I want to leave this intact. The next thing I'm going to do is the data is shared amongst all of our applications, and so I'm going to go to Data, and I'm going to get the DevAV database. So let's go to DevAV, and I'm going to Control-C that, go over here, add a new folder for data. So new folder for data, and I'm going to drop DevAV right in there. Okay, so now I think we are ready to open the project. So let me open it, and I'm going to go to the desktop because that's where I store all of my most important things. In fact, some of you also I add a new folder whenever I have a presentation. I have to take all the icons off of my desktop. I put it in this special folder where everything goes to die. So let me go to DevAV here and let me open the Outlook-inspired application, which is the thing we're going to look at. The last thing I need to do is I need to go to this and include it into the project. Okay. There it is. Our Outlook-inspired application is ready to run. Now, when you open it, there might be some fear because you're like, wow, that's a lot of code. I'll talk about it and tell you some of the decisions we made and why. Okay, so let me go ahead and run it. We'll wait a second while this is still parsing. There's a lot of stuff in there. But the main idea is we want to have a consistent and good architecture. So let me continue this while it's loading. So I'm going to load up the WinForms DevAV. So one of the things that we talk about in our UI Superhero Roadshow are UI patterns or principles. The one that I talk about primarily is consistency. If you're going to have bad UI, just make sure it's bad in the same way everywhere. That way people can complain about it, but at least they'll be able to get stuff done. And so be consistent about being consistent. You'll notice that our DevExpress Outlook-inspired application here is taking a while. Well, let me run it here so you can see it. You'll notice that our application follows a number of specific sort of idioms that people are used to when it comes to particular applications. In this case, Outlook. It's an application we all use. In fact, notice it's number two right after Chrome. So here is the Outlook expired application. Notice that we have a certain patterns that we're following. Here at the bottom, you can see we go between different modules. It's a pretty good look at an application, the way we think it should look and the way we think it should behave. And the cool thing about it is that, I mean, it doesn't take too much to run it. I just showed you how to do it. And so I encourage you to go and look at the code. Okay, so be consistent about being consistent. So how does one actually do that? Well, let me show you how we did it. Here is the DevAV application. Notice that when you're looking at cognitive load, usually you don't want to have people remember more than 5 or 6 or 7 things because it's too much for people to think about in a UI perspective. It seems like we are violating that principle here. But let me show you really what's going on. When you want to do something in this application, notice that it's all really at the top. Those are the actions. When you want to filter something, notice that that's it there at the left. If you want to look at a peak, that's the employee's peak. You can see that there. Here in the middle, you have the meat, and here over here, you have the detail. And then here at the bottom, you have the different modules. So in reality, we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 different things, which falls below the 7 threshold for cognitive load. And so whenever you're working with these things, again, the whole application is the same way. You can see that when I load up, for example, opportunities a little bit different, but it follows the same sort of approach. We have here at the top what you can do, here at the left how you can filter, here at the right you have the meta stuff, and then you have sort of a detail view over here. And this is the same for all of them. And so even if you consider this to be bad UI, I personally don't. It's consistent. You get a good feel for how to work with the application. Once you know how to use the employees module, you pretty much know how to use all of the other modules. But this brings up, go ahead, Julian.
Hi, this is Julian, by the way. Seth, I'd also point out that the actions bar there, the ribbon, is context sensitive. So at the moment you're looking at the employees, so it's all about doing actions on employees. So a new employee, a new group, new items, and so on and so forth. And as you move between the modules, that actions ribbon actually changes according to which module you're looking at. And we'll see that later on as you're building in the next module.
Absolutely. And the cool thing about that, as Julian pointed out, is that the user does not have to think about, okay, where do I go now to do stuff with the employees? Or let me go to products. Where do I go now to change stuff about the products? Notice that they changed up here. Right? The idea is that we're reducing cognitive load by having a minimum of 6. We don't want to have more than 7 areas for the customer or your customer to look at. But that brings up an interesting challenge, right? The challenge becomes this, right? I got this already in there. We have 5 modules. Each of the 5 modules has a filter, a peak, a main, sort of a dependent, and then that's 5 different things for each module. So we're looking at how many modules do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 modules times 5 dependent modules, 25 different things. generally when we're doing WinForms development, we're used to just, hey, let's make a new form and drag stuff on. But we want to have a certain consistency level. So say you come 2 years down the road and someone wants to add a new module, which is what we're going to do today. We want it to fit in, and we want it to feel like it's the same application. How does one do that without, having to go back and, okay, let me just copy and paste, and then, because copy paste is a good smell for this is going to stink kind of thing. And so the best way to do it is to have consistency by using architectural patterns. We in WPF land, they always laugh at us WinForms land people because they have this thing called MVVM. Well, I've always told them WPF is a great platform if you're very specific about how your UI needs to look. If it needs to be perfect, if you need to be beautiful, you need to have really good transitions. You need to use WPF. WinForms probably won't help you with that. But if you're trying to build your basic CRUD app or point of sales app, I mean, WinForms is good enough, but we don't have the benefit of having this sort of MVVM style. If you recall, MVVM really stands for Model View View Model. At the top, you have the view, which is what you show. In the middle, you have the view model, which sort of does this interaction between what's in the database, which is the model and your view. In WPF, we have these things built in. Right? They're called bindings, commands, and notifications. So if you're doing commanding in you can bind directly in your XAML to a specific command in the view model, and the view model handles everything. We also have this iNotify property changed interface that goes on the view model, which automatically pushes data back and forth from this view model to the view, and this happens automatically, and then the view model does whatever it needs to do. We don't have that in WinForms, and you can't have that because the architecture is different. So what can you do to sort of get this in there? Well, in object-oriented land, the best way to solve a problem is to add another class, and so that's what we're going to do with WinForms. We're going to do MVVM-style application development by doing model view model plus presenter. So that's called the MVP VM pattern because we have this presenter class. In WinForms, the bindings and notifications happen from the presenter, and then the commands can happen as normal from the view to the view model. You just got to sort of wire them up. So that's how that particular thing works. Okay. Hopefully, if there's any questions about that, feel free to let me know. But again, we are going to do an MVVM style application in WinForms, but in order to do that, we need to add this presenter. So as we float about doing these things, just remember this sort of interaction of three things. You have the view, which is the thing we show, the view model, which is the thing that interacts with the data, and then the presenter, which glues them together. Because we don't have the WPF stuff like binding and commanding inside of WinForms, we have to use this presenter class to do that. Hopefully that makes sense. All right. Let's go. Let's make something here. So we want to actually add a module. So what I want to do is do I have it running still? I don't think I have it running. What I want to do, oh yes I do, it's right here. What I want to do is I want to add a new thing down here, right? That way you can get a flavor. Now I don't necessarily think that if you look at our code that you might disagree with some things, that's okay. Just let us know. This is just sort of a way to do the MVP VM approach. And so when we look at the code, if there's things that you're like, I wouldn't do it that way, that's okay too, as long as you follow the same architectural pattern. But we're going to add something down here, and we're going to add something like this. Because I am the Analytics Program Manager, I find every possible way to fit dashboards into any presentation. You can ask Julian. It's like, oh, you guys want to talk about the web?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You
probably want to see dashboards.
Oh, a coffee machine even has dashboards.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, you want to go ride your bike? Let me put a dashboard on your bike. I mean, we can put dashboards anywhere. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a dashboard module, and the functionality is going to be something like this. We're going to have an add and edit. We might not get to that. If we don't, you can download the sample and see how I did that. We want to have a list of dashboards, and then we want to show the dashboards. So notice that the only thing missing in this particular thing is we're going to elide the detail view this time, just for brevity's sake. So there's not going to be anything in here. We're just going to have the main dashboard. That's what we're going to build. All right, so let's do that. So I told you I would get to the part where you need a little extra chutzpah to get this to work. As you recall, every time we add a new thing, there are 3 elements that we need to consider. Those elements include the view, the presenter, and the view model. Let me show you what that looks like here. Notice that we have a couple of things. This is just pictures. This is assemblies for entity framework that we added, and this is the data we added, and this is just some control stuff to make our stuff look a little different, or just extra controls that we built. You can take a look at that. We're not going to talk about that the most. What we're really going to focus on are the modules, the presenters, the view models, and then last but not least, the services I'll tell you about in a second. So again, the 3 things, again, the views live in here. So if I were to click on the customer view, you'll see that it is just an extra user control that has a ribbon on it, and that's it. And the framework that we built up for this sort of just merges the ribbons. That's why the ribbons work really well. Merges the status bars, etc. So there's that. So whenever you go into the customers, notice that for the customers, you're going to have a presenter. So let me hit F7 here. F7. Notice that we have a presenter and a view model. Notice that the view model that we're using here is this customer collection view model. And then you have this presenter called the collection presenter. Right? And so there's the things in this. This one's a little bit more complicated, so I won't get into that, but I want to show you that it's all there. So we have a collection presenter as well as the employee collection view model. Now here's the interesting thing. You remember that the presenter sort of interacts with the view, between the view and the view model. The cool thing about that is, imagine on any given sort of control that you're building, there's really only ever going to be like one important thing. Like in this customers one, the one important thing is the grid. Everything else is sort of just gravy on top of it, but it's the grid. So notice that we have a collection presenter, a base collection presenter, and then we have a number of collection presenters that inherit from that collection presenter. So when you're working with the grid will always look exactly the same, behave the same. The only thing that's different now is what we're passing into it. Right, and some of what we're passing into it, and then some of the events. Notice again here the presenter handling events. You can see that happening there. All right, the last thing is the view model. Notice that the view model is the thing that actually works with the actual data. All right, you can see some of the app in there, as well as the commands that come in. And I'll explain this a little bit if we have some time at the end. But again, there's the interaction. We have the, let me go back to the slides. I think it's an important one. We have the view, the presenter, and the view model. All right. So let's add some stuffs here. The first thing I'm going to do is I am going to cheat. I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to add a module. Notice I have this handy-dandy thing I made. I'll show you how to get that set up on your machine in a second. But we're going to create a new main module, and we're going to call it dashboards. Okay. So while that's loading up, let me go to github.com/Seth Juarez. And let me show you that there is this thing that I built called the Win Framework Tools. This is a CodeRush helper that will build, that sort of stubs out these views, presenters, and view models, because the view, presenter, view models are all related to each other, and they're always related to each other in exactly the same way, so you can totally run this project. In fact, you probably didn't notice, but I'm actually running a separate instance of Visual Studio that's running another instance of Visual Studio. Yeah, Inception. And so that if you want to look at that, just totally you can get this project and run it. All right, so that's where you get these tools. So now let me add another one. I'm going to add a pane module because that's the thing at the left. So the main module is going to be the dashboards module, and then we're going to call this the dashboards pane module. And then finally, I'll stub this out, but I don't know if we'll get to it. Let's go to the edit module. We're going to pick the dashboards here, and then we have the dashboards edit. Okay, so let's go to the things we just created. So I'm gonna declare window bankruptcy by closing all the windows. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the files that were added. That's why I built this sort of helper, because I didn't want to have to type this all out. It would have been boring. So the first thing is we have the dashboards view. Notice it's just an extra user control that has a ribbon and a status bar. In fact, I'm going to change this to have a text of home so that the ribbon merges, and then I'm going to put in here dashboard stuffs with a Z because I'm trying to be hip. And so I will put that there so you can see it when that shows up. Notice that when I have 7 into this, the dashboard creates a view model and it creates a presenter. Right? This is inheriting from a base module control that has a lot of this sort of base. Let me F12 this so you can see. It just has a lot of built-in things. So, for example, if I want to get a service container, it's totally easy to do that. It's just a lot of stuff that's easy. That makes it easier to do base moduling stuff. So I inherited from that, and then I inherited from iRibbon control or iRibbon module, which just says, "Do you have a ribbon? If you do, then as an infrastructure, we'll merge it for you automatically." So there you go. There's the view model. Here, I'll Control MO that so you can see that. You have the view model, the presenter, the ribbon, and then a way to bind commands, and we'll do this hopefully if we get to it. So there it is, the same 3 things that you have. So let's take a look at the presenter because I want you to see what the dashboard's presenter looks like. Notice it inherits from base presenter. It's using the dashboard's view model. And then when we create it, notice we're passing in this dashboard view in its entirety. I'm going to change that later on so that we're working just with the dashboard viewer. And then we have the dashboard view. Now, notice that there is the view model that it needs to know about. The view model is nothing, right? Because there's nothing to talk about currently right now. All right, so we need to get this to show up in the infrastructure. There's a couple of things we need to do to get that to work. So let me go down here. And remember, anything that's not module, presenter, or view model, that usually goes into the services. You'll see what the services are in a little bit. Okay, the first thing we need to do, again, is we need to tell the subsystem, hey, we have some new modules. So there is this thing called a module type. Now, this is not necessarily the best way to do it. It's not the only way to do it. It's just the way we did it here. Thinking about it now, I'd probably do some reflection and auto-discovery and saving, but that's okay. So we'll do dashboards here because that's our new module. Dashboards pane, and then dashboards edit are our 3 new modules. I'll make sure. This is a habit, Control-Shift-B. I don't know if you do that. I do it. The next thing we have to do is we have to go now to the services because there is this service that resolves what the current views or the current modules that we're looking at. So there's this thing called the module type resolver, and that just says, hey, if someone asks for this, what do I get? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut and paste this. I'm going to move this out of the way, and I'm going to give a new GUID to this new subsystem that we're building, and it's dashboards is that one. So anytime anyone asks for a dashboards or a dashboards edit or a dashboards pane, we're going to say this is the module GUID. All right, that's just a way for the system to internally keep track of which module we're looking at, etc. The other thing we're going to do is whenever a module is loaded, there's always sort of this main module. That's the most important one. The get main module service, or the get main module method in this service, will tell you which one it is. In our case, whenever we ask for any of these, the main module is going to be this one. Hopefully that makes sense. And so whenever the module edit comes up, and the subsystem says, okay, who is the parent, or who is the main module for this? Then we can always respond via this service. The other thing that's important, well, notice that some of the other modules I didn't show you, some of them have maps. If they don't have maps, we return an unknown. If some of them have mail merge, some of them have analysis, some of them have peak. We're not going to do the peak. Remember that peak thing? But some of them have that. We don't have that. But we do have a nav pane. This is the thing that shows up off to the left. And so to get that to work, we're just going to type in dashboards pane, right? Because anytime any of these are asked for, we're going to use the dashboards pane. All right. The last thing we're going to do, by the way, this is a service that resolves modules. We really haven't done anything. We've just added a couple of enum elements and then a way to resolve which types they are, or which ones are the most important ones, etc. The last thing we're going to do is we're going to go into the main form. We're going to view some code here. And we're going to scroll down, because when this thing starts up, you'll notice that when it loads, there are certain base modules that it loads. And now what we want to do is we want to say, hey, you know what? You're going to load up module type .dashboards. Not dashboards pane, but dashboards. And so now what we've done is we've effectively integrated our dashboards view / view model / presenter into the entire subsystem. And there was just a couple of files, we had 3 really, and then we added a couple of other ones. So let me run it, and let's see if that did it for us. Have there been any interesting questions that have popped up? I will take that.
I haven't been looking, so okay. A slap on the wrist from me.
Oh, my.
Damn.
Julian, are you
no.
like...
Oh, it's go.
This is really awkward right now. We're all trying to talk over each other. Are you like playing cards or something over there, you guys?
Something like that, yeah. We're laying down some bets.
We haven't had any questions. We've had some comments, like from Jason, who said, I'm a big fan of MVP and WinForms. Glad to see you're taking that approach. Very exciting. And Steven said, I love dashboards.
I know. Who doesn't? Like, if I could have a T-shirt that had dashboards on it, I would make it. We should make a dashboards T-shirt.
We should.
Speaking of dashboards, notice down here now we have the module showing up, and when I click on over to it, notice that the whole thing loads up. Notice that the module merging has the ribbon has been merged. The dashboards stuffs with a Z is there, but this here is a little. This is iffy. I mean, we want that to show something a little bit more interesting. So anything that doesn't have to do with the model, or with the view, the presenter, or the view model goes in the, that's right, services. So let's go to the services. There is this module resource provider that says, hey, I want a caption. Okay, so whenever any of these things come up, we're just going to return dashboards. Did you guys see how skillfully I left that in my cut and copy area? That was, yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say something about it. I actually did say something about it. So we're going to load this up now. And now anytime anybody asks for any of these modules, the subsystem will say, hey, what's the caption for this thing? And it will say dashboard. So you can see there it is. Okay, well, we haven't really done anything. We kind of just added everything into the system. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close all the documents. And if you don't mind, I am going to close this because I want to stop running my other instance of Visual Studio. There might have been some slowness because of that. So I will go ahead and clear out my plugins. This is the plugin, by the way, that I built. It has some things for editing. It has these. You can totally look at it. It's not a hard thing to run. So I'll delete that. And now what I'll do is I'll just open here the project again. And this project, again, is on my desktop, DevAV, and there it is. Okay, so now things should be a little bit faster. We've already created everything. So now that we've got it running, the idea is we need to put something in there. So we're going to start from the top, if that's okay, because I think that always makes the most sense. We're going to go to Dashboards and Dashboards CS, which is the control that has the dashboards. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop a dashboard viewer directly here. That's just to get started, and then we'll come back to it in a little bit. So I thought stopping the other instance of Visual Studio would make it go faster. Looks like it did. All right, so let's go to Doc and Parent Container. This has a dashboard, a viewer in it now. I'm going to F7 into the code. And what I'm going to do is notice that this dashboard's presenter is passing this entire component in there. I don't want to do that. I want to pass the dashboard viewer instead. And then, so we'll have to F12 this, and we're going to say dashboard viewer. And this is going to be now a dashboard viewer. So remember, this is the dashboard view presenter. And really, remember how there was for every module, there was like this beef, there was the main thing that we're working with. I don't want to pass in the entire view and then have to access the dashboard viewer. I'm just going to pass the dashboard viewer in by default. And so now notice that the presenter is only working with the dashboard viewer. What does this mean? This means, for example, if you want to have a dashboard in another part of your application, you can inherit from dashboard presenter and use that in the same way that you're using it everywhere else. All right. So now the next thing that we have to do is we have to start to interact with data. So let's go over to, let me move this out of the way, and let me go up here, and let's go over to the view model. So notice again, we start at the top, the view, we modeled the presenter to have the right thing, and now we're going to go to the view model. Let me close this up, and the dashboard view model, and we're going to start to add the data that it's going to interact with. Now, the thing about it is I could write a whole bunch of other stuff, but instead, I am going to borrow from the order collection. Here, I think I can move this down, and it works. I'm going to borrow from the order collection view model, so I'm just creating this view model, and then I'm returning all the entities and projecting it onto a flat data set. So now we have this order entity which has invoice, PO number, order term, etc. It's just where does the customer look, etc. And notice that all I'm doing is I'm making a new order entity and I'm pulling the data. So there's this get. And so this is just for data. Now what I need to do, I could have typed this all out, but it would have been very boring. All I'm doing is I'm projecting data directly. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some view model code. You're looking at this, you're like, oh, this is a lot of stuff. Well, it's yak shaving. That's an official term, by the way, yak shaving. It's a programming term. You can look this up. So I don't like having funny strings anywhere, so these two things are there to make it so that I don't have to type funny strings everywhere. So the data source name is the thing that shows up as the data source of the actual dashboard. This is the directory. So instead of having dashboards in a database, I'm just going to have a directory that the view model looks at and loads up all the dashboard XML files. So this is the name of the directory. The dashboard directory, you can see here, is combining where it's running from and the data source directory. So in our case, let me open this up here. Let me go up to DevAV. You notice there's the bin. That's where it's running from. So it's going to look in a folder called dashboards. So I'll just put it there so that it is there. And I'll move this off to the side for later. The other thing that we're looking at is, okay, what are the available dashboards? What's there? And so that's just an enumeration of all the dashboards. You'll notice that when I refresh, I get the orders, and then I also get all of the dashboards, right? Notice it's just I'm enumerating the dashboard directory, anything that ends with an XML file, and then I'm setting the current dashboard to the first one, if there is any one. So that's what the dashboard is. The orders is just an IEnumerable of order entity that we made. Notice when I refresh it, I'm just calling get, and I'm converting it to a list of order entity. Notice it's IEnumerable, so it works. And now what get current dashboard does is it returns a dashboard object based on the current dashboard. And then bind dashboards looks at its binding to make sure that the bindings are good. So for example, if there's no bindings, it's going to add the data source name, right, the thing we had before, and it's going to add a collection of orders. Otherwise, if the data source name is the same as the data source name, we're just going to bind the data. And that's really it. Nothing super complicated. Okay, so now that we've done that, what we need to do is we need to bind these things. And you recall that binding was something that automatically happened. So if we had this current dashboard, the current dashboard should automatically, whenever we did the refresh, if it was WPF, it would push stuff back and forth. But it doesn't happen here because it's WinForms, so we have to go to the dashboard presenter, and there we have to bind it. So bind is just a really cool function that binds the dashboard. And notice you recall that the presenter has knowledge of the view model. And so view model current dashboard, if it's not empty, then we're going to get the current dashboard. Right? And the get current dashboard, you recall, is this function that returns the dashboard. Not hard at all. Okay, I think that's it. The only thing missing now is we need some dashboards. So remember there was a folder there. I have some dashboards that I pre-built already to make the demo look super cool. So I'll just copy them over, and they're in there. The last thing I need to do is I need to bring this over because I almost made the mistake of not doing anything. I need to call bind dashboard. All right. Let's run this puppy and cross our fingers. Have there been any other questions as this gets going?
There's been a couple, but not necessarily directly related to what you're showing. So I've been answering those.
Fantastic. So let me click dashboards, and we should see. But by the way, notice that the infrastructure already has room for loading stuff, and there you go. There is the dashboard for sales that is in there, and that's pretty cool. I mean, one of the things that you'll notice is that the code that we're writing is actually very short. Each method is very short. You see that? I mean, this one probably could be separated into two, but it's very short. It's doing very specific things. That's a really good smell for code as well. If you have a method that has 100 lines, something is really wrong, especially in an object-oriented programming language. And so that's one of the cool things. But we're missing this. We want to be able to enumerate these things here off to the left. How do we do that? Well, we need to work with the list presenter. I'm sorry, the pane presenter, which is the dashboard, well, which is the thing off the left, that filter thing. So let me go over to the dashboard pane so you can see what it is. This pane, since it's a pane, automatically has a tree list built in, and it passes that tree list in. The other thing that's interesting is that notice that this dashboard's pane, when it creates its own view model, is using the parent's view model. So the parent's view model is burned in. So when I go to the dashboard's pane view model, notice that it has a parent view model because the pane is dependent on the dashboard module. And so that view model is going to get passed in. Okay, so now that we're in the presenter, I'm going to go to a dash list because remember binding should automatically happen, and you'll notice that hold on, I'm in the wrong place here. Okay, so I need to go to the dashboard. So this is a view model, by the way. So I need to go into the presenter. I almost made a mistake there. Remember that the presenter is in charge of binding, but since there isn't the view model generally does the binding between the view and the view model, but since that does not exist in WinForms, we have to sort of do our own thing, and so notice that the binding is going to happen here in the presenter. So I'll do that, and notice where view model. I think I made a mistake. No, sorry, I typed the wrong thing. So dash list. Sorry about that. I typed the wrong thing, and we have to populate a tree. Okay. Now we're in the dashboard pane, right, which is dependent on the dashboard. So notice that when we populate the tree, what we're doing is we're accessing the parent view model, which has this collection of dashboards, and then we're just adding a node. And now what we need to do is up here we just say populate tree. And we're ready to go. Sorry about that. Notice again, we're in the pane presenter, which is that thing off to the left. We need to be able to bind automatically to the list of dashboards available. You can see that we're doing that by accessing the parent view model. And the parent view model, you remember, has this list of dashboards that we've refreshed. Okay. So let's go to the pane presenter, and everything should be starting up. All right, any questions, Julian, while this loads?
There's one you might want to answer from Linda saying, I've looked at the WinForm dashboard examples that pull in the data connection and dashboard definitions from an XML file. Are there also examples of this for a web dashboard?
Yes, they're not hard to do. In fact, it's the same exact thing. It's not. It's the same. I mean, the only difference is you have to handle a connection event just in case your XML file has stale connection, because if you're assuming if you're assuming integrated security, that assumption doesn't hold when you're running on an IIS thread. It's usually running under a network service, which might not have access to the database, so you just need to intercept the connection. So that's actually a really good question. All right, so thank you for that. So here you notice that now the pane is actually showing both the sales dashboard and the shipping dashboard, but we need to be able to change it. We want to be able to flip between both. So how do we do that? Well, we need to handle the tree double-click event. By the way, where should this happen? Again, these things usually happen magically using WPF, but since they don't, they have to go into the presenter class where that kind of thing happens. And what we're going to do is we're going to sorry, I escaped too quickly. We're going to do handle this tree event. So var d, which is the dashboard, I'll just put that there. But the question is this. Now this is the interesting part. I can double-click it, but how is everyone going to know? Like, for example, this dashboard pane is completely separate. The only thing linking the dashboard pane to the main dashboard is the view model. So let's start there. So let's say var view model equals view model, which is the dashboard pane view model. We want the parent view model. That's what we're going to work with. And what we're going to say is we're going to say view model, but little v, which is the parent one, dot current. Oh, I think I spelled it wrong. So there. So current dashboard equals d. Got it. But now this begs the question, usually in WPF, this would magically just sort of happen because it would do it. Now, I'll tell you a little secret. Here, I'll tell you guys, since everyone's here, it's really cool. We automatically public void on current dashboard changed. Okay, I'm going to do this just so you can see something crazy. Notice I haven't really done anything. I'm going to run it. Okay. Let me cross my fingers here. Hopefully this will work. If it doesn't, then I have another way of doing it. I'll show you this. I'll show you two ways. So Daniel asked a question. I love WinForms also, but in this case, why not use WPF if you're going to try to emulate MVVM Anyway, just wondering if there's a benefit. Yes, there is a benefit. For example, a WinForms development, if you're already a WinForms developer, Daniel, your learning curve is not going to be as steep. If you're eventually going to move to WPF, it might behoove us to sort of migrate our WinForms stuff over to a better pattern, and then those classes will then be usable more or less to the WPF area. The question is, if you're going to be doing WinForms, you should probably use good architecture, so you should. The other thing is WPF has a bit of a memory overhead when it comes to rendering, and it's also a little bit slower than WinForms, but again, it depends on the machine and what you're doing. Great question. All right, let me go to dashboards, and let me run this. Okay, and now let me click on shipping. What? Notice that this is automatically firing, and you're saying, what the heck? How is that even happening? Well, this magic MVVM framework that we've built will automatically see this as a virtual method, right? Will automatically look for anything that has on whatever this is changed events, and it will handle them, right? And when you do that, well, it's not going to change because I haven't done anything yet, but notice that it will handle it. So that's one way of doing it. But when you do that, how do you tell the presenter? Because notice the view model has no idea about the presenter. So I'm going to take this off and not use this, but just to let you know that we have handled that case where we want to do automatic sort of binding on events. But eventually what we have to do is we have to tell somebody else, we have to tell the dashboard, the view, presenter, how did this change? And so the way to do that is I'm first going to declare window bankruptcy by closing all of this, except for this one. Then I'm going to go to the dashboard's view model, and I'm going to add something. Because it sure be nice if we could send them like an email or something. So I'm going to make an email to send to the main module. So there's this dashboard message. And this dashboard message pretty much has a type, and then it has an enclosed dashboard if there is such a thing. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the pane presenter, and I'm going to use Messenger because we love 2002. So default, and we're going to send a message. It's going to be a dashboard message, and this message is going to be dashboard message.theview message. I think that's the right one, yeah? It doesn't matter. So view, because we can handle that. So there you go. As far as this particular set of code is concerned, I'm done. I've done everything I could do. Nothing much I can do now. But the idea is, okay, well, how do we get the presenter, because the presenter is in charge of binding, to recognize that this has changed? Well, we just go to Messenger. Default.register a dashboard message, board message, and this dashboard message is on. By the way, the recipient is this on dashboard message. I'm having a spelling issue. There you go. Uh-oh. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the magic of Code Rush to declare a method here so that we have that. And then I'm going to add, of course, a semicolon. I'm going to change this to message. And now all I need to say is if message.messageType equals .view, and we have a handy-dandy find dashboard, right? Because remember, the view model was already changed, and so we can change it. All right, so that messenger thing is actually pretty cool. You can use it, you can just use it in general to send and register messages statically throughout your entire application. I think it's pretty cool. All right, so we'll go to dashboards. And we will go between shipping and sales. Notice that we have that working. Okay, so if we had time, what I would do is I would add more buttons here, and then I'd open a new window to let you edit a dashboard, but we don't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to invite you to go to github.com on the DevAV and see. This actually has all the stuff if you want to do the new and the edit window. If any of the instructions are not clear, let me know. Or send a pull request. Booyah. That's how it works. Okay, so I will stop there for the code. We did that. The question is why would you do this? I mean, it might seem like an overkill. Yeah, but not really. I mean, if you think about it, I added some significant functionality. Dashboards is pretty significant. And me explaining it took longer than me doing it. Right? That's the first thing. The second thing is there is a consistency about this app that otherwise we would not have. Hold on, I'm trying to load. There it is. Notice that this feels like it belongs, right? It's not like this feels like it's out of place. Oh, did you just add this new module? Why are the colors all off or whatever? I mean, it feels like it belongs. Not only that, but do you notice that? Like, by the way, the first time we loaded it, notice how it took a little bit of time? Notice that it's also maintaining state. So if I'm on shipping and then I go to opportunities, I want to see, okay, what opportunity? Oh, okay. Well, our shipping dashboard says that we have all this. I mean, it just fits in. And so I've been able to add a significant portion of functionality in not a long amount of time. Okay, so the tooling, you can go to github.com/Seth Juarez. Win Framework Tools and DevAV at github.com/Seth Juarez. DevAV. All right, I want some questions. Were there any ones?
And they've all been answered. They've all been answered.
Yeah, but I want to see. There was one about the Win Frameworks tool. Okay. Does the Win Frameworks tool have the plugins for quick menu add of the main pane? Yes, I did. But here's the thing, Jason. I made it in particular for this demo. Let me show you something that you might like, and I almost forgot about this, and I'm glad I remembered. If you go to help.devexpress.com, and let's say you're like, yeah, but I don't want to start with the Outlook one. By the way, this is up because someone asked me to have these links. Just go to github.com/Seth Juarez and you'll find everything you need there. I don't want to start with the Outlook demo. There's too much stuff in there already. I want to start from scratch, but I want to use this pattern. If you go to our help and you go to Winforms Controls Common Concepts and you go to Concepts, there is this thing called Architectural Patterns, right? And there's this MVP VM. There are three. This goes through it. It's one of our. It's pretty good documents. This will show you how to build something from scratch, right? And it's pretty cool. I mean, go through it. I mean, maybe I should make a video just going through this so you can see this because this is actually pretty good. So that's the first one. And once you get into the first one, it's like, hey, you might want to start working with commands. I didn't get to talk about that, but there is commanding that we've added. Yeah, this is how you do that. This is how you bind commands. Okay, I've done that. Now I want to be able to have interactions between views, and I want to add services. Okay, here's how you do it. And then you can go through that. And then I think there's a navigation if you want to navigate between things. Then you have advanced MVPVM application, and then you have this sort of this is new, this multi-level navigation that allows you to navigate between modules, etc. So it's all here. You can start from scratch doing this. And the question is, why would I do this? Well, again, I was able to add pretty significant functionality pretty quickly. I mean, modulo, obviously, me talking a lot. Any other questions?
No, not at the moment.
Okay.
So I think we're pretty much done.
Well, did I end on time? This is weird. I feel like I should be talking more about something.
No, you ended on time. Right.
I know. I feel like you're having a hard time ending on time.
This is really weird. You guys want me to bloviate about something else? I certainly can.
No, not really. Though you did
sure?
get some comments about what you were just showing would make a great webinar. You should make a video of that. And Daniel met you at Xamarin Evolve.
What?
What?
Yes, Daniel and I, we go way back. I mean, him and I, like, we had such a good time at Xamarin. We hung out. I mean, we got pictures. You know those booths where you take pictures in? We did that, and then
wow.
It was really, we had this awkward moment where there was like cotton candy, and we inadvertently shared it together. It was really awkward, but I think I don't know. I mean, it was a good time. Yeah.
Yes, let me answer. Amanda, sorry, yes.
You did say, this was interesting. You said, hey, this would make a very good webinar. I'll remind you that we're actually on a webinar right now where I'm talking about this very stuff. FYI.
I will answer this question. It comes up a lot. Yes, this webinar is being recorded. You can watch the entire thing from top to bottom again on our DevExpress YouTube channel. You can watch it in slow motion. You can pause it. You can ponder. So that answers that. And Daniel says it's all kind of a blur.
Yeah,
so.
It was crazy. That was a lot of cotton candy. It's pretty ridiculous. I needed help getting back to the hotel.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. So. Okay, sorry. There's some things popping in here. Are you going to have anything related to SharePoint?
Yes, but not anytime soon. You mean webinars?
Yes,
I don't know. I love SharePoint. Hold on, that was a joke. I'm sorry. I don't like. We can do. Let me step back because this is being recorded. So yes, our components will work in SharePoint. Particularly if you're building an ASP.NET web part, you can embed any of our components directly into SharePoint. Now, to do a SharePoint webinar would take months, probably, because I would have to set up SharePoint, which would take months, and then I'd have to. Has it gotten easier to do SharePoint? I don't know. But you can do it. In fact, just to answer seriously, if you go to SharePoint, not that, SharePoint.devexpress.com, you should see, unless they've taken it down, it doesn't looks like people haven't looked at it in a long time. You can see our control examples inside. Wow, this is new. I haven't looked at this in a while, but there you go. So Matthias asked, could you extend this example with accessing data from SQL Server? Just a little FYI, my friend, it is accessing data from SQL Server right here. The base of this is actually using Entity Framework, but yeah, it is. The only reason why it looks so easy is because in the dashboard's view model, I'm pulling already from a collection entity, and that collection entity already has a set of entities. So let me go to the entity, ABCD. A set of entities. Ooh, I can't find it. It's in here. Trust me. But it's in the base one. Sorry. Here, this is in a separate model assembly. Good question. All right, Amanda, I turn it back to you unless there's any other questions.
Nope. Looks... well, we do have something from Pedro. Do you see it?
Yeah. Oh, does this work with XPO? Yes. The view model doesn't care where it gets its data from. It is agnostic in that regard. Good question. Another question, is there a way to create Outlook-inspired apps without using patterns for newbies? Yes. Drag and drop would be the way to do it, my suggestion. Although, it's not hard. If you go through the help, you'll see it's not super hard. I mean, you can walk through it. It's pretty good walkthrough.
Awesome. Well, you've officially gone over time, so do you feel better?
Well, I was getting worried there for a second. Yes.
Okay, so we do have a ton of upcoming webinars. Feel free to check them out and register for them at devexpress.com/webinars. A couple, the next two coming up, October 21st at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, DevExtreme Mobile, Consuming Data with WCF and Legacy Web Services. One of the challenges when moving into the mobile arena is how do we connect to our existing systems? Again, you can join CTO Julian Bucknell and technical evangelist Paul Usher as they take you through the steps on how to connect existing web services to a multi-platform mobile application. And then November 4th, DevExpress ASP.NET Controls, building a real-world web application. And again, Julian and Paul Usher are presenting, and they will step through how to build the stunning DX Hotels applications featured in our 14.1 demo center. And
What?
there are several, yes. Oh yeah.
I feel like Julian's babysitting us the whole time. He's like popping in. Is there something we need to know about our job security, Julian? I mean, it's like I need to just pop around and see what's going on here.
Yeah.
Wow, is that your British accent?
I said pop around for Julian. I'm trying to kiss up. I mean, come on.
Oh yeah.
Mm.
I'm
Yeah,
learning
that's on
it
it.
all. You know, that's it.
Somebody has to watch you all.
Yeah, I know.
All right. So there are several more upcoming. Again, you can register and read all about them at devexpress.com/webinars. And that is officially it for this one. Thank you so much to Seth and Julian. Thank you for joining us. And of course, thank you for choosing DevExpress. Bye-bye.